It's silly for us to look at animals that consume a mostly plant-based diet, look at their muscle mass and say, we should be able to do the same thing by eating plant-based food. Allow me to explain. Mammals that consume a plant-based diet and can put on massive amounts of muscle can do so because their digestive system is far different from ours. Now, we do have a large intestines, it just happens to be very small, and we do not process plant food as efficiently as a gorilla, which actually has a very large intestines.
Let's stop the video right there because I agree. In his words, allow me to explain. Now, I'm not agreeing with the direction that he's going, meaning stating that our digestive systems are different and hence we should consume animal-based products. But I'm agreeing with his position and stance that we shouldn't compare ourselves to other animals. Meaning we shouldn't point our fingers towards a gorilla and stating that, see, gorillas are built like tanks and hence that means that we can also get tons of proteins from plants as well. There's a reason why in the scientific world human outcome data holds way more weight than animal-based data. And that is simply because, like he stated, we are built different. And this is one of the reasons why I don't like to bring up the argument of a gorilla anymore. I used to do this in the past, I'm holding myself accountable here, but I don't bring up this argument anymore when it comes down to plant proteins. By the way, before we look into the human trials, I want to point out towards something. Say, hey, the gorilla argument is not very feasible. At least stay consistent with your arguments. Hence why I don't like seeing the argument coming up that we should consume meat. You and I are not a lion. You and I are not a gorilla. Because trust me, if you want to really go there, then go look up what lions do to their rivals and the children of their rivals. That's not a behavior that I would like to be translated or seen when it comes down to humans. Anyways, let's look at the trials and the best evidence that we have that plant proteins are not inferior to animal-based proteins. In the past, most of the studies, and the reason why still so many people believe that plant proteins are inferior is because of the DIA score, or the DIS scores, however you want to pronounce it. The DIS score, or the DIA score, is based upon data done on rodents and feeding them foods in isolation and in raw form. That means they fed some pigs or rodents raw beans and wanted to see how much they could digest it. The DIA score is, speaking of animals, based upon animal data. Obviously, the food in isolation, being in raw form, is also a huge issue, so let's look at human outcome data. So far we have 3 great quality studies that compare the 100% plant-based diet against an omnivorous diet. And I put the 3 trials on the screen. As you can see, when we look at the results, there was no significant difference between a plant-based diet and an omnivorous diet when they matched for proteins and even when they didn't match for protein. And that is the best data we have. By the way, some of these studies are using a crossover trial, which means all the groups and participants had to try the omnivorous and the plant-exclusive diet at least once during the trial. Plant proteins don't seem to be inferior to animal-based proteins. They seem to have the same effect if you reach a certain amount of protein. And hence why I tell people to consume 1.6 grams of protein per 1 kilogram of body weight, regardless of the diet. Now, I like to be objective and I would like to see way more data coming out in the near future. And with new data, we either can make a stronger point for plant proteins being the same or having the same effect on muscle growth, or maybe not so much. Regardless of the results, I will keep you updated. But so far, the best available evidence comparing a plant-exclusive diet against an omnivorous diet are showing no difference between these two. Everybody stating otherwise is either sharing data regarding and using the DIA score or the DIS score, again, however you want to pronounce it, or studies comparing a whey supplement against a soy supplement without changing their diet. Meaning they take an omnivorous diet and just put the soy protein on top of it or the whey protein on top of it. And I've seen data going in both directions using these trials, but I'm not really a big fan of this data and hence why I'm not sharing it. Why? Because you could always make the case that even with the soy protein supplement added to the diet, It's the animal-based protein giving you the muscle growth effect. And before I end the video, I've been eating a plant-exclusive diet for the past 16 years. 16 years ago is where I started lifting weights. The reason why I put this last or at the end of the video is because it's an anecdote. And you should never put too much stock into anecdotes, regardless whether it suits your point of view or it goes against it. Because if it worked for me, doesn't necessarily mean that it will work for you. And there might be so many confounding factors that you didn't take into consideration. Hence why relying on science holds more weight. What are your thoughts about this topic? Feel free to let me know in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you during my next post.